So the concept of an evil Goku is something that is endlessly discussed, whether in a positive or negative light, when it comes to the Dragon Ball franchise and its massive fandom. A lot of people assumed when Goku Black was announced over a year ago as the main antagonist of the Future Trunks arc, that this was like the first in continuity version of evil Goku, because a lot of people mistakenly assume that a concept of an evil Goku is something that exists almost exclusively in side material like the Dragon Ball Z movies, or that it's something that exists only in the video games, or it's something that only exists in popular fan manga, which isn't necessarily wrong, but we had versions of evil Goku in the main storylines of Dragon Ball well before Goku Black even existed. And this is kind of a video just dedicated to the evil versions of Goku, some of which are fairly obvious and are going to seem, really recognizable to people, but a couple of them are far more subtle examples that showcase what would happen to someone very similar to Goku if you maybe exaggerated certain parts of their personality or you took certain parts out, and the end result is quite terrifying indeed. But the first guy on the list is Turles or Tullus from Dragon Ball Z Movie 3, called The Tree of Might. It has an alternate Japanese title, but I'm not gonna fucking remember it because they're all the same. They're all the super strongest strong guy versus the other super ultra mega strongest strong guy. Literally, that's the title of fucking all of these movies in Japanese. They're so interchangeable and so boring and stupid, there's no way in hell I'm gonna remember these. You have a better chance of teaching me all the Pokemon names in English and Japanese before you ever teach me the names of the Dragon Ball Z movies. But anyway, the main villain of Movie 3, The Tree of Might, is of course Turles. The basic concept of him is a very simple one. He is Goku if Goku hadn't hit his head and become kind of like a better person, because I'm gonna use the Bardock TV special as a basis here because honestly, fuck Minus. But I'm gonna use the Bardock special for the basis of his backstory for this video. And in that backstory, Goku was sent on Earth to destroy it. He was supposed to turn into an Ozaru, and it was anticipated that because Earth is a very weak planet with a few minor exceptions, that he would be able to wipe out and kill them all in the span of a few years, even as a little baby or a small infant child. Goku was extremely violent with Grandpa Gohan. Grandpa Gohan didn't really know what to do with him. The fact that Grandpa Gohan even survived as long as he did during that initial period when Goku was very vicious was because Gohan was a fairly accomplished martial artist in his own right, and he was many times stronger than the average human, and that's probably the only reason Gohan even lived as long as he did. But anyway, Goku was being carried by Gohan above a waterfall, and Goku hit his head, and Gohan thought the kid was gonna die because he was apparently comatose for a while there, but Goku not only recovered, but I guess the brain damage that he suffered kind of quelled most of his Saiyan nature was quelled. A lot of that permeates Goku and dictates his actions even now, but most of the overly negative things about the guy, like being particularly bloodthirsty and vicious, were just kind of knocked out of him. And Turles or Tullus represents Goku if he never hit his head. If Goku never suffered that brain damage, and then he grew up to be a vicious conqueror just like all the other Saiyans. Turles is just kind of like that. He is, once again, based on Goku's design. He kind of has this devil horn thing going on at the top of his head, which has sadly been lost in the modern ultra plasticky Yamamuro era of Dragon Ball, which is a pretty big shame because I like the dude, and there's not much else to his personality. He just is kind of like an evil Goku. And the same can very much be said for Bardock, which he might seem like a weird addition to be here amongst guys like Turles, but Bardock was set up as the spitting image, or rather Goku was set up as the spitting image of Bardock. Raditz even says as much when they first meet on Roshi's Island. So you know that Bardock is gonna majoritively look like Goku, but his initial design, which was done by Nakatsuru, the guy responsible for Super Saiyan 4, yay, or rather nay, if you're someone who doesn't like Super Saiyan 4, you fucking weirdo. He did an initial design of Bardock where he has, of course, the Saiyan armor, he has, Goku's face, but he has kind of Vegeta hair, and then Toriyama redesigned Bardock later on, and he made him look much more like Goku. And Bardock is very much like Turles in that respect, where he is just his son if he was a violent Saiyan. But because we kind of see more of who Bardock is thanks to the TV special, he is, of course, a much more well-rounded and, of course, much more interesting character to talk about than Turles is by a large margin. And then we get to the next inclusion, and this one I find particularly interesting because this inclusion is kind of like the closest thing you can get to Goku's default personality, but make him an antagonist. And this is none other than Perfect Cell. Now, hear me out. Perfect Cell's entire motivation after attaining perfection is testing out the limits of his power. He wants the good guys to get as strong as they possibly can. He creates the Cell games just for this purpose. That's why he lets Trunks live. That's why he, doesn't kill Vegeta. That's why, gives the good guys 10 days to train as much as they can in the Room of Spirit and Time, because just like Goku, Cell wants a good fight. He has all the power in the universe, but he has no one to really test it on, and the only people who realistically can give him a challenge in that universe are on Earth. And that's why he sets up the Cell games. That's why he lets everybody train as much as they want, as hard as they want, so that they can become all as powerful as they can be. And this is why he has a great respect for Goku, because Goku is very much like him, where he is all about fighting the strongest guy you can, testing yourself, pushing yourself to the utmost of limits, and then seeing if you can bypass those limits. That's why he also specifically pisses off Gohan. He doesn't piss off Gohan just to kind of screw himself over, but because he is aware that Gohan has a lot of power and he wants to bring it out. And that's why he tortures everybody through the Cell Juniors, and that's why he wanted Gohan to show off this big mysterious power that both he and his dad, or Goku I should say, were constantly hyping up. This is the closest thing you can get to Goku in his default personality as the villain. This is what Goku would be like if you kept everything the same with him, but you just changed one thing, and that if you made it so that Goku's going to do whatever it takes to get a strong opponent. Because Goku usually is not the kind of guy who's going to torture and murder people just so that he can incentivize a potential opponent to get as strong as they can be so that he can maximize his entertainment out of them. He's not really that kind of a guy. He's going to do that. He does have some kind of moral code, as very loose and as flimsy as it is. And Cell has none of that. Cell will torture, murder, kill, do whatever the hell it takes if it means getting a good opponent. But Cell's kind of ultimate downfall is that he is a kind of a bad sport. He's like Frieza and Vegeta, which is fitting because he does have Frieza and Vegeta in him, and kind of like those two other characters, when he is ultimately met with a stronger opponent than himself, he kind of flips his shit, whereas Goku doesn't usually do that. Goku, for most of Z, he doesn't overtly lose his cool even when the situations are most dire. There are only really a couple points where Goku's legitimately scared out of his motherfucking mind, and he thinks that he's gonna, get annihilated if he doesn't do anything about it. Perfect Cell is the closest thing you can get to Goku while keeping 95% of his personality intact, but just changing that necessary 5%, and you can already see the results. The results are very obvious. And also, Cell's ultimate downfall in this regard is the fact that he is vicious. Because he is willing to murder and torture and kill and do all these morally reprehensible things to get a good opponent, if that opponent overpowers him, they're not going to show him mercy. They're gonna fucking kill him, or they're gonna torture him too, and then they're gonna kill him. Whereas, because Goku is a much better sport about this stuff, unless he's fighting someone who's just inherently super malicious, the opposition is probably just gonna be like, hey man, that was a good fight. I know you can't beat me, but let's stop right here. You haven't done anything to me. Let's just, chill out, and then we can have a rematch some other time. And that's the big difference between Goku and Cell, obviously, along with a whole bunch of other things. So yeah, if we're gonna talk about evil Gokus, Perfect Cell is the guy who kind of fits that the best out of anybody, if you ask me. And then we don't really get another version of an evil Goku until Beerus in the Dragon Ball Super version of the Battle of Gods arc. Beerus' character between the movie and the arc is very, very different. Whereas in the movie, Beerus does want a good fight, but he's not inherently malicious about it, and he's not really a kind of a dickhead. Like, he does have, obviously, a lot of dangerous personality traits that will get you killed if you tick him off right, but in the movie, he is much more, chilled and relaxed, and he's not overtly antagonistic. Whereas the arc makes Beerus, of course, much more villainous, and that kind of creates, kind of an arc, I guess, because it's Super, and Super's writing his shit, so it's really kind of difficult to even call anything a character arc in this series. movies, but for the sake of argument, let's just say that it is. Let's just say that this is something that is supposed to resemble an arc, so to speak. So, Beerus in the arc version of Battle of Gods is far more vicious, he's far more bloodthirsty, and he does enjoy, destruction a lot more than he does in any of the movies, and he is inherently a more antagonistic character. And in episode 11 there's this really big moment between him and Goku where Beerus says, while he's pounding Goku and trying to get him to fight harder, he basically tells Goku that he is really, really bored. That it has been so long since he's fought anybody who can get him excited that he's willing to put up with almost anything, even a worthless scrub like Super Saiyan God Goku is in this version of events, just so he can get something resembling an actual challenge. And he's really bored, and that boredom is what kind of drives him. It's kind of why he's okay with Whis training Goku and Vegeta, because he knows that these guys can potentially be good playmates for him in the future. And even in the movie version, this is kind of why he's fine with them training with Whis, because he'll help them get stronger, and if Goku and Vegeta get stronger, they're gonna be much more fun opponents to fight. And also because Goku and Vegeta don't want his jobs, so Beerus really has nothing to fear from these people. They really don't have anything to use against him, and they don't really have any reason to want to kill him, except Vegeta, for ordering Frieza to blow up Planet Vegeta, which nothing's ever gonna come with that. I just fucking know they're never ever gonna use that for anything interesting. But Beerus in the Super Arc is very much a version of Goku. Imagine if Goku could live for millions and millions and millions of years, and he becomes so spectacularly powerful that nobody could challenge him. And for a guy like Goku who lives for the challenge, who puts up with Chi-Chi and all this other chore shit and having a shitty job, the guy who does all this stuff for a good fight, imagine living for tens of millions of years and having nothing. Nothing challenges you. You have no reason to train. You have no reason to improve yourself, and you just get so horrendously bored that you're willing to do anything, even chase after dreams and wild goose chases, just so you could maybe, potentially, at one point or another, do something. And the thing that really kind of solidifies Beerus's boredom and his sense of ennui is the fact that Beerus doesn't need to sleep. Before, we assumed that all the gods of destruction sleep because they need to recharge their power, or they need to rest for one reason or another. But we realized that Beerus sleeps because he's so fucking bored. He has nothing to live for that really excites him besides food, and he just has to sleep or he would legitimately go completely insane. And this could very well happen to Goku. If Goku became a god of destruction and he reached such a level of power where he's so strong that nobody can challenge him, and he just lives on and on and on and on in perpetuity without a challenge, Goku would probably go fucking crazy. So with this kind of context in mind, you very well could say that Beerus from Dragon Ball Super's arc of the Battle of Gods is a version of evil Goku, a version of Goku who would go insane without a challenge and being, bored for millions upon millions of years. And then there's, of course, Goku Black, who is, ironically, the total antithesis of Goku when it comes to personality, because regardless of which version we're talking about, whether it's the anime or the manga, Black is not really anything like Goku. He's, more focused on his looks. The anime version does love to fight. They do have that in common. But Black has this whole philosophy on life, this whole philosophy on what the universe should be, what it can be, what are gods in it, what are mortals in it. And Goku doesn't think like that. Goku's a simpleton. He doesn't have anything resembling a fucking philosophy. I'm pretty sure if I asked him what a philosophy is, he wouldn't know what to tell me. So Black is majoritively the total antithesis of Goku. And also Black in the anime is very much, he's very pragmatic when it comes to fighting, unlike a lot of the characters in Dragon Ball R, Goku very much included, where he's willing to put up with a good fight, but he's not so invested in fighting that he's gonna let stupid mistakes happen. This is talking about specifically the anime version of Black, who knows that if he destroys the time machine, Trunks and Goku and Vegeta are gonna be lost to him, and he's not gonna be able to power up, but he's fine with doing that because they stand in the way of his plan. Same thing after the episode where Super Saiyan Rose debuts and Shida animates his very first episode on Dragon Ball Super, where Black has Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks beaten, and he loves fighting them, but he doesn't love fighting them so much that he's just gonna let them go so they can power up. And he, legitimately decides to kill them at that point in time, and then he decides to kill them, after the third trip. The only time he overtly lets them go is in the second trip, but that's mostly because Trunks kind of distracts attacks him with his Super Saiyan bullshit state. So yeah, that is kind of a short rundown of the various versions of Evil Goku that we have throughout the Dragon Ball franchise. There are a lot more versions out there that I probably missed, versions where like Goku is like brainwashed, or he becomes Majin, or whatever the hell. Like there's so many Dragon Ball video games, I don't doubt for a second that they've probably done a million different versions of Evil Goku. Then you also have versions, you know, in fan manga and that kind of stuff from Young Gigi. Creator Malik is doing that from New Age. He's doing kind of an Evil Goku thing. It's not really Evil Goku, it's more like a manifestation of Vegeta's worst aspects, but that's like a whole other thing I can make a video about. I just want to do this to cover the big guns, the big names who could very easily pass on for Evil Goku, in very least their personality and of course their physicality. So, do you think that these guys are good versions of an Evil Goku? Who do you like most? Do you agree with some of the people I put on this video? Please comment down below and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye.